Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series, Securing Your Business. We are glad you are here, whether you are watching on Zoom or watching us on Facebook Live, or even watching the on-demand recording of this on YouTube or Facebook later. Welcome. We're excited for the topic today and excited to be able to convene the community in this way. I'll first go over some Zoom etiquette and Zoom instruction for you. You'll find that you're on mute and off video for this webinar, but we will have a chance for questions at the end of the presentation. You're welcome to either type your question in the chat box or use the raise hand icon on the bottom of your screen to indicate you would like to ask a question. Both of those features can be found on the bottom of your screen. On your computer, it's that gray banner. You can find both of those icons there. If you are listening on your phone, on the Zoom app, press the three dots to find more options to chat or to go ahead and raise your hand to ask a question. So at the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce, we are thrilled to be able to convene people and ideas. That's our mission every day throughout the year, and during this pandemic is no different. We are absolutely honored to have the opportunity to convene you all virtually for this webinar series. If you've been with us from the beginning, this is now our 6th week of holding webinars Monday through Thursday. We are just absolutely honored to have the chance to offer you all kinds of content through this Securing Your Webinar series. We have had U.S. Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy with us, Assistant County Attorney, talking about the stay-at-home order. We've had local businesses come on to talk about creative innovations of how they are serving their customers during this time. And we'll continue to have interesting and new topics every day. I'll be telling you about our upcoming webinars at the end of this presentation. So here today, I am very, very excited to introduce one of my coworkers, Robin Swan. Robin is the Director of Government Affairs at the Winter Park Chamber. After leading an interesting and in-depth life in politics, she joined the Chamber, I think about a year and a half ago, as our Director of Government Affairs. She leads numerous advocacy initiatives at the Chamber, including, but not limited to, our legislative updates, candidate forums, the Tallahassee Drive Up, and she is plugged into local politics in Winter Park. Normally, she would be at our City Commission meeting right now, but we are thrilled that she is here. Please welcome Robin Swan. Robin, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be with you today. I'm going to share with you news from the 4 basic entities of government that are essentially making decisions for us. And I'm going to start with the federal government. As you know, President Trump unveiled his Opening Up America Again plan, and they are guidelines for opening up America. It's a 3-phased approach based on the advice of public health experts, first and foremost. And they're meant to help state and local officials when reopening their economies and getting people back to work again in their states and communities. So it's the data-driven conditions of each region that must be satisfied before proceeding to a planned opening. That is these 3 phases. So the phases include details such as just guidelines like safety measures that businesses would be required to use, anywhere from schools to businesses, private sector, public sector, you name it. But again, as I said, before any of those phases can be addressed for any state, first that state has to meet certain criteria. And that is, for example, it has to do with symptoms there in the state. Each state must have shown for 14 days a downward trajectory in reported cases of flu-like symptoms and COVID-like symptoms. And another example is that there must have been a downward trajectory of documented cases within a 14-day period, and of positive test results within that 14-day period. There are not many states thus far that have met these criteria before they even enter the first phase. The states that are beginning to loosen their guidelines are really wide open space states, states where they are fairly thinly populated, such as Alaska. They have been able to loosen their rules. However, no state is ready for phase 2 or phase 3 from a public health perspective. You all may have seen in the news yesterday, Dr. Birx, just as recently as yesterday, made clear that it's the local governments that have the say as to how quickly rules should be changed and managed. So while the White House has created these guidelines, this 3-phase approach, they really are deferring to state and primarily local, more so than state oversight at this point. So that takes us to the next level of government that I want to talk to you about, and that is state government. As you know, Governor DeSantis issued the Safer at Home order on April 3rd. That order ordered all non-essential retail and commercial businesses to close, and that all residents should stay home from non-essential travel, which expires May 30th this week. The governor is working hard to keep an eye on what the president has in mind. So he has taken that approach and he is applying it to our state. May I have the next slide? Thank you. So as you can see from this slide, he and also the Florida Chamber of Commerce has been working with the governor's office to help in this, but they're taking the White House guidelines and applying it on the state level, and then encouraging the local government entities to work. He has created a statewide task force. The members include executives at Walt Disney World and Universal Studios, 2 of the state's largest employers, as well as other corporate executives and elected leaders. The governor's office is gathering input and data from various sources. All of them are stakeholders, such as the Florida Chamber of Commerce. Some decisions, of course, have already been made that we're aware of. Schools have been shut down for the rest of the semester, and DeSantis has said he's eager to allow healthcare providers start performing elective surgeries again, for example. He said he's worried about extending the ban on elective surgeries, which is due to expire on May 8th. I just mentioned that the current executive order expires May 30th. He is no doubt trying to decide whether to extend it. I tried today to get a feel for when we might be hearing from him this week, and so far, none of us knows quite yet, but we will be hearing from him as to what is going to come next after this current executive order expires. So it's really been a balancing act for Governor DeSantis as the crisis has unfolded. He's had a fair amount of criticism. Some say that he acted too slowly on the onset, but he's also trying his best to work in sync with the White House. I'm sure you're aware that Georgia's governor recently got a little bit of heat, or at least a little bit of criticism from President Trump last week for opening on the early side. And but at the same time, President Trump has also gone after a few Democratic governors for being too restrictive. So generally, I would say going slow and easy is the directive that all of these governors are now taking, including our own. They certainly took a cue from the whole experience last week with the governor of Georgia, that is for sure. So Governor DeSantis has already laid out some of his thinking that suggests that he may take a region by region approach in Florida, giving areas with lower infection rates, such as the Panhandle, a chance to reopen faster than the harder hit places like South Florida. So these will be some of the most important decisions that Governor DeSantis will have made as governor. So it's quite a moment for him and for all of us. I'd like to go ahead to some of the slides that I have. Yes, thank you. So you'll see here, with the help of the Florida Chamber, they've actually been working hand in hand with the governor's office. They're working hard at examining the data, and they see the importance of going slow, very, very slow. So you can see there where they're asking the questions not only about individuals, but also about small businesses and larger corporations. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This slide, the Florida Chamber and the governor's office have both said that they'd love to make this slide into a poster because it really tells a great number of stories about quickly and safely returning Floridians to work. As you'll see, they've pretty much separated their thinking into 3 different categories. The lower, hold on a second, the least restrictive workplaces, then the middle of the road restrictive workplaces, and then the most restrictive. So they're measuring data at breakneck speed, truly. They want to be sure that they are fair to every industry and that they're taking everything into consideration. Okay, next slide. So this was important to me for you all to see because it spoke a lot to me when I saw it last week from the Florida Chamber's webinar, that the reality is that reopening in Florida will be more complicated compared to that of other states. The first reason being perhaps this could be a difficult hurricane season. We don't know. But if it is, there's always that possibility of sheltering having to occur for those in need. And that could offer a host of problems. Let's hope not. Then, of course, 21% of Florida's population is 65 or older. Tax revenues, oh my goodness, they are going to suffer. And then, of course, the tax receipts coming from the tourism industry. So, and something that's not mentioned in great depth here is that tax issue, the income tax issue. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we go to the county slide, please? So that leads us to the next level of government, which is Orange County. Mayor Demings has, in the same way that Governor DeSantis created a task force, Mayor Demings has created a task force, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the Economic Recovery Task Force. It is comprised of almost 50 of what he calls the best and brightest minds in our community. The co-chairs of the task force include the president and CEO of Visit Orlando and the president and CEO of the Orlando Economic Partnership. And you'll see Tiffany is scrolling through to show you it really does include a wide variety of businesses, many large, many, actually you will recognize many of these names, including John Rivers, for example. It's interesting that they are being so thorough. They even included financial institutions, small businesses, nonprofit economic development agencies, hospitals, theme parks, and then representatives from Lake Osceola and Seminole counties. I must admit that we have at the Chamber noticed that they did not include any mayors on the list, but we will give them our input if we need to. And I'm sure that Mayor Dyer with the City of Orlando is as well. So this group will focus on recommendations for reopening Orange County. And it also is using a phased approach for easing restrictions, but while also ensuring the safety of employees and the public. And as you know, Mayor Demings first began by implementing the curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Um, all in all, I would say, we're still going to talk about the city and what they've done, but before I do, I just want to say it's clear that Mayor Demings is really in charge of this situation for us. Um, President President Trump has deferred, even though President Trump has a plan, the three-phase plan. They are very clearly deferring to local governments to make decisions. And of course, Governor DeSantis has done the same in many instances. So Mayor Demings is being thorough, and we're grateful for that. The reality is that he is really forced to look at the leaders in the local industries. So tourism, the healthcare industry, those industries are really in great part going to dictate the way that our recovery plan is presented, I believe, there from the county. I believe it will be slow, but sure. Now, at the most recent, the task force there at the county has only met once. The meeting was very interesting. It is open to the public. I want you to be sure to see. I believe I added at the bottom of this document, Tiffany, a way to go online or at least find out more about the task force. But you can watch it on Orange TV. It's very interesting that at this first meeting, in the second half, they talked about going very methodically and safe and slowly. But in the last quarter of the meeting, they invited the input of other business people and citizens and residents. And it was very clear by what was said that there's a clear difference between the interests and the progress and the changes of International Drive and that of Park Avenue. So that's a dilemma. That's a dilemma that Mayor Demings has before him. It's a balancing act, kind of like what the governor did. But there's no question about he is going to continue to have to defer to the tourism industry. And in a sense, he's going to have to regulate the process and make it a one-size-fits-all situation because we can't afford to go backwards. If we go forwards with lenient rules, and if there's a flare-up, it will be bad. It will be bad not only for those industry leaders, but for all of us. But again, going back to the distinction between the interests of our merchants on Park Avenue and merchants on I-Drive, this I think is a real true moment where stepping in and advocating on behalf of your industry, if you're a local vendor, if you're a local restaurant, if you're a local merchant, please don't underestimate the power of becoming a part of the process and weighing in. Please plan to share those views with them, with the Orange County Task Force. This is just a great time to be an activist. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about the city. They have really come through with a great deal of emergency assistance. We do have some slides that show there are about 6 different ways that they have decided to, actually 7, excuse me a second, 7 different ways that they have found that they can contribute toward aiding the community. And in all, the city approved $1.9 million of funding for community support. The first of these different initiatives, I'll call them, would be the Emergency Utility Assistance Initiative. This is a program that was already in existence before the COVID-19 crisis, but this is really a moment when it's going to shine more than it ever has. It's a situation, they call it the 211 program, um, where the city actually approved $50,000 in direct matching grants to help the customers pay their electricity bills. And you may be aware that the city is offering to work with customers, whether they're private residences or businesses, to come up with a payment plan. They're not shutting anyone off at this time, and they're deferring those kinds of payments until a more appropriate time, which was very, very good to see. And it was, in fact, the very first thing they chose to do. So as you see, that this emergency utility assistance plan really has the potential to be a $75,000 plan in terms of aid. The next one, again, is the electric fuel rate reduction. They estimate that this rate reduction will save right in the ballpark of about $750,000 for the city's electric customers overall. So that is all about they are suspending the electric fuel costs on residential and commercial customers for 1 month. Okay, now small business utility assistance. As you can see on the slide, the city approved $500,000 to small business to the utility assistance program. And they will, for example, if a restaurant had to limit operations due to a government order and had less than 100 employees, they are defined as a small business in the Small Business Administration program. It's an excellent approach. All of these are similar but distinctly different. The residential food support, the next slide. Oh, there you are. The residential food support that the city has undertaken is equally important. Unfortunately, people are, the situation is taking its toll, and people, in many cases, have become hungry with no other means than to rely on the support of the school system. Those who have students, for example, students are still getting some meals. And then the city has partnered with the Second Harvest Food Bank and the Feed the Need program. Feed the Need was created by John Rivers, and it's part of the Four Roots Foundation that he created. What he has done, John Rivers, is he has gathered support from local restaurants in terms of in-kind donations. And those donations, as well as donations from other sources, including the city gave $75,000 toward Feed the Need. Those monies go toward a it's actually a meal distribution program that's taking place. It began last week. It's Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Meals are distributed at the Hannibal Square, at the community center there in Hannibal Square. It's important to note that these meals are not Four Rivers meals. The city has worked hard to make sure, in promoting this program, that it's clear that these are meals, and the gentleman who started the program is identified with Four Rivers, but these are not meals coming from Four Rivers. These are meals coming from many different sources, but he took the initiative, and the city really responded to that. And then Second Harvest Food Bank also received money from the city, and that will continue to be an ongoing partnership as well. The microloan program, we've worked and thought about launching a microloan program. At this time, I must admit, There is not the political will right now at the commission to launch a loan program, and that really has mostly to do with the fact that um, you take on a loan program and if you're not a commercial lender, for example, you are not experienced at making loans. B, you have to suddenly have guidelines and criteria for allowing one business to apply and another business not to apply. So you're having to choose who is able to take advantage of it. And then thirdly, the distribution and the intricacies of the distribution of a microloan program. So at this time, while the chamber and the city we have worked hard at trying to come up with a solution to that. At this time, we're putting that sort of on the back burner. The city of Orlando launched a similar program fairly recently, and it did not end well. They would probably be the first to say it did not end well. So we'll see if there's another way to skin the fish, as they say. Another approach might be micro grants, and micro grants could do an array of good for a lot of different industries, but we'll have to wait and see if it's doable. Energy efficiency under the city's sustainability division was another issue. They distributed 500. They've agreed to distribute $500 to any business willing to undergo an energy efficiency evaluation. It's called the Green Business Program. Any business can request this study, and the business will receive the $500 just for having the evaluation done. The business is not obligated to put the recommendations into effect, which is remarkable, but one would guess that they would jump at the opportunity to do so. So again, you can also see that the city has ways, if there are other ways that they can help, they will continue to get that word out. Here's a slide showing how to learn more. The Feed the Need, the Second Harvest Food Bank, and the Heart of Florida United Way links there, those websites. So that's really the end of my presentation. As I said, generally speaking, all of the different levels of government are on the same page, really, and that is that local needs are first. Things will continue to evolve, and we are learning, all of us, daily as we watch the news. All entities, science, the White House, everyone is learning daily what it is we're dealing with. So things will continue to change to some degree. But I would venture to say everyone is doing their best. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to offer?
Thank you so much, Robin, for all those details on what's going on at the federal, state, and local level. I think just hearing it broken down from you was really, really helpful for me. So for those on the call, we are open to taking questions at this time. You can do so in two different ways. You can type in the chat box if you're on the Zoom app, or you can click the raise hand button on Zoom as well, and we'll unmute you and you can go ahead and ask your question directly to Robin. In addition, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, feel free to comment and we will get that question to Robin as well. So let's see if we have any questions coming in yet. We have Rob saying, hi, Robin and Amy, but no question yet. And we have some thank yous on Facebook, but I'm not seeing any additional questions.
Well, I will, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Robin, we got one in.
Okay.
If you're ready to answer one. And by the way, for everyone on the call, Robin shared she's going to do her best to answer any questions, but for any outstanding questions that we can't address on this call, we will post the answers on our website next to the recording of this session. So, okay, the question is from Teresa Swanson. Did the city require the commercial landlords to pass on their utility savings to their tenants? Is that something that you're aware of?
To my, okay, so the question is, did the city require the tenants, I'm sorry, the landlords to pass on that savings to the tenants?
The utility savings.
Utility savings. You know what? That's an excellent question. And I don't know that they specifically added that language when they created it. The way that it was discussed in the meeting when it was passed was that the actual energy account holders would enjoy that benefit. So if there are situations where the landlord is the utility holder, I guess it's conceivable that that argument that could be made, but it's a very good point. And I actually am curious about the answer to that. So I'll look into that as well. And by the way, and many of you may already know this, the commission is meeting as we speak. And they will be discussing some things. They won't be discussing these things that we're discussing right now, but they are discussing things that some of us were a little bit surprised about. They're discussing acquisition of the post office for additional park space. And they're also discussing making the guidelines for having livestock in your, not, I beg your pardon, not livestock, for having chickens on your property. It's an idea to encourage folks to raise their own eggs in the midst of the pandemic crisis. So there haven't been a whole lot of detailed conversations that we would like to see them have. But going back to your question, I would love to get the answer to that for you, and I will let you know.
Thank you so much, Robin. We have a couple of comments coming through in the chat. Just bear with me. Okay, this is a question about the plan to reopen. Have you heard of any plans to have training seminars on how to clean facilities to be able to reopen again? Now, that's from the city perspective. Has there been any talk about protocols or training on how to properly clean your businesses or facilities before reopening?
I have not heard of any. That is certainly something I would think would be in the city's best interest. It does sound like something they would like to do. I know they are, if you go on the city website, under the communications tab, you'll see the messages that they have been posting on several different topics that are COVID related. But the answer is no, I'm not aware of any. It's a wonderful idea. I can tell you that the city, when it comes to city-owned facilities and buildings, they will be undergoing their own cleaning procedures. So that's all the more reason why they should provide some guidelines for the businesses as well.
Thank you, Robin. And thank you for that question. That is definitely a topic that we will be addressing through this webinar series in the coming weeks. All kinds of technical things to think about as you reopen your business. So look out for our future webinars. While it won't be a city governed training, we are thrilled to have the chance to address some of those questions and help prepare you for this new phase of reopening. So thank you for that question and for bringing that up. We'll have that coming. I have another comment from a participant that says, thank you so much for opening this up to everyone. She says she's helping many local would it be maybe just to visit the City of Orlando website? Do you have any other information?
I missed that entire question. I lost
I'm
the
sorry.
audio. I beg your pardon. No, I couldn't hear what you asked. Can you say it again?
Oh, sorry. We just had a comment about how great this is and how helpful it is to hear what's going on at the city level, Orlando area versus the Winter Park City. Would it be just to visit the City of Winter Park local website, maybe view their city commission meetings online? Any other ways to kind of plug in there?
We would love to provide all the information to get more access to this, and we can provide updates in our daily briefing. We have been doing that as well, but we'll continue to do so. Just getting that feedback from you shows us that it really is resonating. So we'll continue to do this and then some as we go.
Well, thank you so much, Robin. That is the end of our audience questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to put together this presentation to share all the knowledge that you've picked up just being plugged into our local government. We really appreciate it, and I think it was extremely helpful. So thank you for being with us. I also want to take a moment to thank Tiffany. Sorry about that. I think we're having some connection issues on my end. Apologize. I want to take a moment to thank Tiffany Cahill, who is manning the PowerPoint today and is the force behind organizing our webinars. Tiffany, thank you for all that you do, as well as to all of the other staff members that are on this call. We appreciate it. So as Robin mentioned, we hope that you are receiving our daily briefing. We have a chock full of information daily briefing coming out each day, and if you're not currently subscribed, it's easy to do so by visiting winterpark.org and clicking that subscribe banner at the top. Also, be sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with what is going on in Winter Park. We have an exciting week of webinars coming up this week. Tomorrow, we have an interview with the mayor. Mayor Leary will be on our webinar answering questions in an interview format. We'd love to have you there. In addition, we have a fun and exciting fashion show coming up on Wednesday. So for those of you that are missing strolling on Park Ave and experiencing all of our great retail stores, we are going to have those stores come to you. We have several different stores, including Toonie, The Grove, Frank, Eagles Winter Park, and more, so don't miss it this Wednesday. Thank you once again, Robin, and thank you everyone on the call for joining us. Hope to see you later this week on one of our webinars. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Robin.
Bye-bye.